In this video, we are going to discuss about VTP Gotchas. So what is a Gotcha? Gotcha is a sudden or an unforeseen problem which occurs. So this is about VTP Gotchas. That means a VTP after configuration, whatever is a sudden or unforeseen problem we face, it is called a Gotcha or VTP Gotcha here. So you see that reloading a switch in a client mode without a domain name. So this is a kind of an unforeseen problem occur in the VTP, and you see that reloading a switch in a client mode but without a VTP domain name configured on it. So if you are configuring a default switch as a VTP client but don't configure a VTP domain and then reloading that switch, the switch will come back with VTP server mode. That means if the switch is in a client mode without having a domain name, when you restart the switch, then it will again restart in a VTP server mode. So it could be a problem if we can configure a default switch as a client and then shift it to a site with the intention of the switch inheriting the current VTP domain, the VTP domain name once it was connected to the network. That means here, so we normally configure the switch in VTP client mode and send it or ship to the location where exactly it has to be connected into the network. Then we think that it will take the domain name from the network so that it can update it VTP configuration. But here the problem is when the switch is restarted before going there, it will again come back in a server mode. Then it will be a problem for the VTP configuration. Although the switch will inherit the VTP domain name, it will be in VTP server mode rather than a client mode. So as also after sending it, after restarting, it will inherit the VTP domain name, but it will come under the VTP server mode, not in the client mode again. So if you see that set VTP mode to client on a default switch. So if you see a default switch or a new switch, so we set it to a client mode by VTP mode client. So the device is set it to a VTP client mode, and if we enter show VTP status, it will get the configuration details clearly here. Then you see that the VTP domain is null. That means as we have set it to client mode, after checking show VTP status, it will give the operating mode as client here. So after getting the status of these details, then if you want to restart or reload the switch here, you see right building configuration reload. After reloading, if you try with the command show VTP status, now if you can see the operating mode is in server mode. So when you configure it in client mode and unfortunately the switch got reloaded, then it will enter into the server mode, and also this causes a very big problem in the VTP configuration, and your VTP configuration don't perform or function correctly. So what we will do again, let's try again with VTP domain configured this time. So we create a VTP domain by VTP domain as Cisco and VTP mode as client. So that again if you check the VTP status, then client mode and Cisco has been showing up or popping up here clearly that this is in client mode and having the VTP domain name as Cisco. So now we try to reload the configuration, so that after reloading is successful, then when you check with the VTP status here, it will come back as client and Cisco. That means here you have to take into consideration the domain name is very essential, and also the operating mode also is very essential. So when your operating mode is in client without a domain name, when you restart it will go into the server mode and create a problem. So that you have to create the domain name and also you have to enable it in the client mode, so that if it restarts also, it again comes back in the client mode. So this is a common gotcha or an unforeseen problem which occurs in the VTP configuration.